Hey everybody, a couple of things came up during this year's programmatic and technical monitoring that have us concerned that there's some misunderstandings out there about when you're required to do lead-based paint testing and also how to apply some of the EPA's rules to the work we do in weatherization. So I've got an example on the screen that will hopefully illustrate the correct way to do a couple of these things. This example is similar to some stuff we found during our monitoring this year. It's a lead inspection report. And you can see that the auditor here selected that their conclusion was that no materials that could contain lead will be disturbed. So no test was conducted. And everything looks great up to this point because that's an allowable conclusion. You're going to have homes where that is in fact the case. But then we notice this note down below that says no work being performed that will exceed the 6-foot de minimis. Many of you who have taken any lead training know a little bit about this 6-foot de minimis. If you don't, there is a rule within the EPA guidance that has some exceptions to the lead safe work that must be done when you're disturbing less than 6 square feet of paint within a given room or less than 20 square feet of paint on the outside of a house. And we affectionately refer to it as the de minimis. But taking a look at that and understanding that there are some exceptions, when you're disturbing less than 6 square feet, makes this note all the more concerning, because what this is saying is that there were some materials that were disturbed. Even though the auditor selected this conclusion and said that there weren't, down below they're saying, well, wait a minute, there were. And we feel like it was going to be less than 6 square feet, therefore we did not do any testing. So this is the first misunderstanding that I want to clear up. The de minimis has nothing to do with when you are required to test lead paint. The program guidance on when you are required to test for lead is right here in section B94G, which says lead testing of all painted surfaces that may potentially be disturbed during weatherization process must be tested in homes built or manufactured before 1978. So when are you required to test for lead? Anytime you're going to disturb a painted surface. And the reason why this is a requirement of the program is we have an obligation to our clients to test for the presence of lead and to communicate to them when we found lead and let them know we're going to be doing lead safe work and let them know the risks that are associated with that. We have an obligation to do that, and therefore you are required to test all painted surfaces, period. Okay, the second part of this is that there's this reference to the de minimis, and as we've gone back and looked at the language of when the de minimis can be or could be applied to our program, the conclusion we've come to it is that it cannot. And let me show you why. If you go to section E711 in our guidelines, that's where you'll find the guidance for our program on what to do when you do find lead-based paint. The Department of Energy has actually required that all weatherization programs follow EPA's lead renovation, repair, and painting program rules when working on pre-78 homes. And so in our guidelines, we just have a hyperlink to it. So clicking on the hyperlink will take you to the Code of Federal Regulations, and it's this Part 745, Subpart E, which is how to deal with lead-based paint and other toxic things when you're working on residential property renovations. And if you want to read through the purpose statement basically says that the whole purpose of this guidance is to ensure that owners and occupants receive information on lead paint hazards before the renovations start, and individuals performing those renovations are properly trained, certified, and that they are following the work practices that are required. This section has nothing to do with when you're required to test for paint. This just scopes what you're required to do when there is lead paint. So again, our program requires that we test every surface we're going to disturb, and then when paint is found, you are required to come to this section 745 subpart E and follow all of these rules when you are doing that work on the surface that has lead paint in it. Now to the de minimis rule, if you'll scroll down a little ways, they have a list of definitions. And there are two definitions in this list that are very important for us to look at and understand. So the first definition that I want to read is this one for minor repair and maintenance activities. It says these are activities including minor heating, ventilation or air conditioning work, electrical work, and plumbing that disrupt 6 square feet or less of painted surface per room for interior activities, or 20 square feet or less of painted surface for exterior activities, where none of the work practices prohibited or restricted by 745-85A3 are used, and where the work does not involve window replacement or demolition of painted surfaces. So they have a category of work that can be done on homes that they're calling minor repair or maintenance, and that is when this 6 and 20 rule can be applied. And if you read through it, you could think, oh, well, we do ventilation, or we do air conditioning work, or we do heating work. So couldn't that apply to some of the work we do? And in fact, back in a training that I did in December of 2019, I did apply it to that work, and I told the program that you could apply it. Well, let me read the next definition and show you why from this point forward, we are not going to allow this rule to be applied to any of the weatherization work we do. The second definition we need to talk about is for this word renovation. And it says renovation means the modification of any existing structure or portion thereof that results in the disturbance of painted surfaces. The term renovation includes all of these things here, including weatherization projects. So the EPA has actually gone to the trouble of specifying that renovation means weatherization projects. Since everything we do is a weatherization project, renovation means everything we do. And then the last sentence here is why the 6 and 20 rule does not apply to our program, because it says the term renovation does not include minor repair and maintenance activities. So that 6 and 20 rule only applies to minor repair and maintenance activities. And since anything to do with any weatherization projects cannot include or does not include minor repair and maintenance activities, then that 6 and 20 de minimis rule should never be applied to what we do in weatherization. So here's the point of the whole video. First and foremost, auditors are required to test all painted surfaces that will be disturbed in pre-1978 homes. That's per section B94G. Second, the de minimis rule, that 6 and 20 rule, does not apply to weatherization. So for some examples of this, I'm going to reuse some slides that I used back in December of 2019, but I'm going to correct the guidance here. And that is, in 2019, I put this slide up and it said, is this a renovation or a minor repair? In this case, this guy's doing weatherization, so this is a renovation. It's not a minor repair. And this one, this guy's removing a window or putting a window in. Is this a renovation or a minor repair? He's doing weatherization, so this is a renovation. And then this last one, is this a renovation or a minor repair? As we just saw in the guidance, since this is part of weatherization, it cannot be considered a minor repair. And since this is a renovation, if you are going to cut into any painted surface, that painted surface must be lead tested, and then you must follow the EPA's rules on that, which means you're going to have to set up some containment on this one. Hopefully this helps clear up our program's guidance on when you need to do lead testing, which is anytime you disturb paint, and also when the de minimis can be applied, which is never. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.